All right, what the people at home don't know is this is our third time trying to get this show started.
Take number 3.
Take number 3. All the good jokes were wasted in take 1 and take 2. So now in take 3, we get right to the show.
Let's do
3,
it.
2, 1.
Do that.
Bah!
Do that.
Bah!
Do that.
Bah!
Intro music. I didn't want him to go through another take. I don't know how much film we're using.
I know. We were having audio difficulties with the other theme music, so that's what you got instead, folks. So we'll get Bob right on that, and my assistant, Nobody, will help us out as well.
Maybe that's the name of your assistant is Nobody.
Nobody. Hey, Nobody, go get me some drink.
Right.
Thanks, Nobody.
Right.
We appreciate. I appreciate Nobody.
There we go.
All right.
You don't appreciate anybody. Wow. Okay.
I don't. All right, so this time we are headed into some NFL picks for the opening weekend.
National Football League. Yes, wild card.
Sorry. Did you really say National Football League? Is that for our couple viewers who have no idea what that is?
Both of them.
Both of them? Okay. Well, it starts off pretty here soon. The Seahawks at the 49ers.
Yes.
I mean, you got to think the Seahawks kind of backed into the playoffs a little bit. I guess they did win their last game with plenty of help from the officials to get into this game. Which is also, by the way, every single game in this first round is a rematch of something that happened during the year. I don't see the 49ers failing to beat them the third time. The Seahawks are just happy to be here. They didn't expect to even be in the playoffs after beating Russell Wilson, after trading away Russell Wilson, and somehow getting off better for that. But you got to think the 49ers take this one.
Shout out, and speaking of that, shout out to Geno Smith and the Seahawks. Geno Smith had a great year, made the Pro Bowl. Shout out to him. I honestly, personally, I kind of thought he was kind of finished. I don't want to say the term's washed up, but I just thought his best years were behind him. But he had a great season this year, made the Pro Bowl.
Would you say his best years are behind him?
Like you said, what's Russell?
Would you say his best years are
behind him? I thought
they
were.
That's just you being polite and saying he was washed up. Like, don't sugarcoat it. That's what you
I don't want to say that. I'm trying to sugarcoat it. But yeah, and like you said, I thought once they got rid of Russell Wilson, once that trade happened, then I thought, okay, the Seahawks are that's it for the Seahawks. They're going to go to a rebuilding mode, blah, 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 blah. But when you look at where the Broncos are now, where the Seahawks now, the exact opposite happened.
Yeah.
With that said, unfortunately, the Seahawks are not going to win this game today at 3:30. No. It's the first game on starting today at 3:30. The 49ers are picked by 9.5. The 49ers got Pro Bowlers on both offense and defense, I think. Getting Christian McCaffrey midway through the season was pretty huge for them. I mean, just even more talent up front. And obviously, the story here is Brock Purdy. I think he's 5-0 since coming in for Jimmy G's injury.
And he gets Debo back for this game too.
I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Debo's back, so I think the 49ers are going to be loaded on both sides of the ball. I think they can cover in this game. I just want to see an entertaining game, but I think the 49ers are going to come.
Watch the Bama game at 3. It'll go off at 5. You can catch the second half of this game. Maybe see some back. I don't do this. San Francisco have any backup quarterbacks now?
That's also a very good question. I honestly don't know, because Brock Purdy is their third string quarterback. And speaking of that, what do you do next year when Trey Lance is back and Jimmy G are back? Like, how does that even work out? I mean, you got Brock Purdy there. Does Brock
Jimmy G only signed for 1 year, so he does. I don't think.
You don't think so?
I don't think he's coming back. You have Trey Lance, and Purdy's probably done enough to make it a quarterback competition. I think it depends on how this year ends. Let's say they get to NFC Championship game or Super Bowl and Purdy just looks terrible in those games and they lose, then they're like, okay, it's back. But, I mean, they've already invested a lot in Trey Lance, not monetarily, but like draft pick wise. So I think next year they're going in with Trey Lance and Purdy, and it's a quarterback competition.
And then Purdy's the number 2.
Yeah, Purdy's the number 2. If Purdy looks just awful at the end of this year, maybe you do something to Trey. But I mean, he's looked good, and what are you really expecting from the very last pick in the draft? But if they win a Super Bowl, maybe we're talking. But even if they win the Super Bowl, I still think it's Purdy versus Lance next year.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you just go into training camp with no real starter yet.
Right. And Purdy has a good chance to start. So
yeah, I agree.
After the way he's finished off the season, so we'll see what happens next year. Yeah. On to game number 2.
We'll both take the 49ers to win and cover.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah, game number. This could actually be a fun game. Jaguars were pretty hot.
I think it will be
here. Chargers finally got over the hump and got into the playoffs.
Right.
It's always funny with these games where the team with the better record has to travel to the team with the worst record, but that's what you get for winning a terrible division.
All right, I have a question. Before we give our predictions on this game, who do you think is the better quarterback, Trevor Lawrence or Herbert?
I think it's pretty even. I think if you, I guess Trevor does a little bit more with his legs at times, and it's kind of an underrated skill. Herbert's been around a couple years longer, but if I was going to take one right now, I'd take Trevor Lawrence just because he's younger. Right. I think you're kind of still seeing this is really his first year because he had terrible coaching the first year.
Right.
So this was his first year with a good coaching staff, and he's still making some mistakes. But if I was starting a team and you gave me either one of these, I'd be fine with it.
I'd be okay with both of them. Yeah,
I'd be okay with both of them. And if it was one of those things where it was the snake draft, if you get pick number 1, I get pick number 2 and pick number 3. I would take pick number 2 just so I could double up my draft and take either one of these. The second choice between these guys, I think I'd be doing fine.
Yeah, I agree. With that said, the prediction is
with that said,
yes.
Do you take Herbert over Tua right now?
Yeah, going back to the 2020 draft or just in general?
In general.
Going back to the draft. Going back to the draft, if you knew all this was going to happen, in hindsight, you would take Herbert over Tua due to his size. But I think what happened with Tua was there was a lot more hype around Tua because of his weapons and how well he played at Alabama, playing at a bigger program, winning a national championship, etc. And he had a really, really great college career. But there were the small things that Tua did that kind of rubbed some of us the wrong way as far as taking too many hits, holding on to the ball. And when I say holding on to the ball, I mean just constantly looking for the home run every single pass, which is not always going to be there. And meanwhile, on the other side of the country, Justin Herbert was at Oregon and just kind of sneaking in under the radar. But you didn't see him in any playoff games or any national championship games. And I wonder if that's why some people wanted Tua so much, because he played really, really good with a good program and better competition. But
much better weapons, as you just said.
Much better weapons. But I would love to have. Honestly, I'm a Dolphins fan, but I would love to have Herbert over Tua. Tua hasn't proved to be available. That's what scares me the most. And what they say, the best type of ability these sports have is availability. And
availability is availability.
Tua's availability is scary because we don't know. I'm assuming he'll be back next year. I just don't know how many hits he's going to take next year, and I'm worried for him at this age. I believe he's 24. If 24 or 25, I forget. But having 3 concussions this year, going into next year, it's going to be really hard to say he's going to go the entire season without taking a good hit. Taking a bad hit and then something else happening. If he gets another concussion next year, you've got to look for a quarterback. Miami, and I really think there's some people in the offices of Miami that are looking for a real quarterback now, or they at least have it in their minds for the reasons that I previously mentioned. So I wouldn't be surprised if Miami was to take one in some later lane. We don't have a first round pick, but
we'll cover that more when we get towards the draft. Somehow, and this is totally my fault. I changed this from a Chargers Jaguars segment into a Dolphins segment.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that was my fault. That was totally my fault there. But it I think isn't a question to be asked. We'll cover it more on our podcast when we record, I guess, early next week. But it's a very, very interesting question. So back to this game. What is it? Mike Williams is out. I think that's a huge loss.
I think he's out for 2 weeks. Yeah. So even if they win this game, I don't think he's playing next week either. Yeah.
Right. I want to say it even said 2 to 3 weeks, almost as if they better make the Super Bowl to get him back.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Going back to this game, though, man, it's hard for me not to want to pick the Chargers regardless.
Yeah.
Just think they're just a little bit better team. Jaguars maybe a little just happy to be there the way they finished the season. Do think it'll be high scoring, but I think in the end, I'll go with my gut. I take the Chargers.
I'm going to do an anti-Herb pick here.
Anti-Herb. You're wrong.
I'm going to go with Jacksonville Jaguars and Duval. So I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars simply because, and for those who don't know what an anti-Herb pick is, I'm just picking the team that Herb did not select.
Yes.
I can't give you a valuable reason or a real numerical type of thing that just Herb picked one,
no stats.
picking the other. No stats involved.
I can respect that.
Thank you.
No,
but here we go.
I know.
Let's get it over with.
The Bills are going to win, Raj.
The Bills are going to win. There was already a feeling Tua wasn't going to play in this game, and it's obvious for reasons he doesn't. I don't think he needs to play. And honestly, the last time we played the Bills, we won the first one. The second game, Tua played good.
Yeah,
it was in Buffalo. Tua played good. We ran the ball extremely well. We lost a close game. But I just don't think, even with Tua, tomorrow, I don't know if we were going to win this game. There's a lot at stake here for Buffalo. I think Buffalo was the team I picked to win the Super Bowl this year, and they're still on track to do that. Skylar Thompson, our third string quarterback from Kansas State, is going to be starting.
Yeah.
He didn't play the Jets last game, and we only scored it was 11-6. Now, I'm not saying the Jets have a bad defense. Jets have some pretty good defensive people on the team. They have a good defense, but I think had Tua been in there, we could have put up more than 11 points. And obviously,
or at least one touchdown somewhere.
Yeah, a touchdown somewhere. And obviously, if we're going to compete with Buffalo, we're going to have to score some touchdowns. So unless a miracle happens tomorrow, I don't think we're going to win. And there's a good chance that the Bills cover this.
Yeah, that might be the saddest breakdown of a game.
I know. It sucks. It's sad to see our season come to an end, but at the same time, beginning of the season, I picked us to finish number 2 seed and to go in a wild card and make the playoffs, which is exactly what happened. So I met my expectations. I hope next year that, maybe we make it a little further in the playoffs.
Right. I think they have to sort out the quarterback situation for next year. But
yeah.
I'm definitely taking the Bills to win. 13.5 is a lot of points for a cover.
That is.
I could just see, the Dolphins doing just enough, and the Bills take their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter, and get one late touchdown, and the Bills win by 10.
See, I think it's just going to come to a point where Buffalo's up 21-7, and it's just going to be too steep of a hill for us to climb to get back into the game. So that's why I think they'll be up by 14 at some point in the game. They're going to maintain that lead if they don't make it bigger.
Yeah. Bills win, maybe not cover. That's a tough one. Bills are advancing. Sorry, right? Giants versus the Vikings.
Yeah.
Vikings won. Yeah, Vikings won the first game due to a 61-yard field goal.
Wow.
At the end of the game. Now, the game was tied, so it's not like if he misses that, they go to overtime.
Right.
So there's still a chance. But Giants also had last week off to rest, to get a little healthy. Vikings just don't blow people. They let everyone stick around. So, in my first, upset alert. Upset alert. I'm taking the Giants.
Wow, taking the Giants.
I'm taking the Giants.
That's a pretty good pick. Pretty good pick. This is a really, really interesting game because I think it's just going to come down to how good Minnesota plays, especially on offense. Is Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson going to hook up and have a monster day?
Which he did in the first game.
What they did in the first game. And with that being said, I kind of have a feeling that Minnesota is going to win again. I think Minnesota covers in this game.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So are you a Minnesota believer or just for this first game?
Just for this first game. Let's see who they play next week, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. If they win this game, they play San Francisco if they win.
Yeah. See that I wouldn't pick them. And we'll see that next week, but I would not pick Minnesota.
All right. Then the nightcap on Sunday, the Ravens at the Bengals.
Any word on? Have we heard any updates on Lamar?
Lamar posted himself that he's not playing.
Okay.
And if you listen to Shannon Sharp, he's not playing unless he gets some ice and that bag.
Some money. Yeah.
And they're not going to do that before Sunday. So
no, of course not.
No Lamar.
No Lamar. I think I don't know if we're on the same page with this one, but I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and that Cincinnati offense is going to be way too much for Baltimore to handle. Baltimore does have a good defense. They gave Roquan Smith his money with 5 years, $100 million. That's cool, but they're not going to outscore Cincinnati tomorrow.
No, and I think that's going to be the problem is going to be Baltimore's defense will keep them in it for a while. They'll hang around, but you can't just keep giving Cincinnati. And I think that's what happened in the game last week. Cincinnati's just going to have as many shots as they want. If you give a good offense 6 or 7 tries, just in the first half alone, and your offense is 3 and out, which I think is going to happen. Cincinnati's going to win this game. The Ravens will have some pride. They'll stick around for a while, but they're just going to get worn down in the end.
Yep, I agree.
So I think they showed a stat. The Baltimore offense was averaging about 24, 25 points with Lamar, and they're averaging 12 without him. So they don't have a shot here.
Yeah, Baltimore's going to go through some of the same struggles that Miami's going to go through tomorrow. Yeah. So
yeah, unfortunately. Maybe they should just mix it up. Let Baltimore play the Dolphins.
I'll be okay with that.
that game might, with both teams playing their third string quarterbacks,
Be like 9-11.
Yeah, it'll be like 9-11. So
we'll have a better chance to beat Baltimore than we do Buffalo. So
this is true. And the Bills and Bengals are on another collision course anyway, so that should be interesting.
Yeah.
So,
all right, the Monday night game. I think this is probably going to be the most interesting out of all the games.
Oh yeah, that's why they gave it the Monday night slot. They knew what they were doing.
Exactly.
Tom Brady has never lost to the Cowboys.
Okay.
7-0.
7-0 against the Cowboys.
That sounds worse than it is because they weren't in the same conference for years.
Right.
So they, it's not like he was playing them every year. But
as you mentioned, this is going to be another repeat of they start the season 19-3.
Yep.
So
and Dak got hurt in that game too.
Yes, he did. He
did. He got hurt late in the game. It was already a blowout when he.
The game was already over. Yeah.
Yeah, the game was already over.
So with that said, who are you taking in this game?
Oh man, so the Cowboys have the better, I feel like they have the better offense. They did sputter into the playoff, but they have the better offense. Got the great, ground game, good defense. So clearly I think in this game, I got to take Tampa Bay to beat them at home. You like how I did that? Okie doke. Okie doke.
So you're going to take Tampa Bay to beat them at home?
Tampa Bay to win. Yes, Dak is not a great playoff quarterback. Last week left a really bad taste in my mouth because they were trying to win that game. They didn't pull the starters like after the first quarter. They looked awful. And Micah Parsons has kind of disappeared in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay is going to do just enough. Their defense will hold them down, and they're going to win this game.
And Dak, and I'll be honest, Dak has not had a good second half of the season. I think he's thrown an interception in 7 or 8 games in a row.
He has somehow thrown 4 pick sixes in 3 games.
Yeah, I didn't even pick sixes are bad. Yeah, bad. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm not sure if it's his throwing motion or what exactly is going on with that. But I have a feeling that the Cowboys are going to get things tomorrow, and they're going to pull off the win tomorrow. And I think they're covering the 2.5 spread.
Technically 2 days from now, but yes.
No, I'm sorry, Monday night. You're right. Yeah. Technically 2 days from now. So I think Dallas is going to cover, and I bet you can't guess one of the reasons why I'm pulling for the Cowboys. And you're smiling because you're getting ready to say
because your wife.
Yes. There you go, her.
Your wife is on your fantasy team.
Yes. My wife is on my fantasy team?
Yes. That was the reason for everything during the year. So somebody was on your fantasy team. So
my wife is probably going to listen to this. So yeah, we're pulling. Well, I'm sorry. I'm pulling for the Cowboys. Herb is pulling for the Buccaneers.
I didn't say I was pulling for them, but I do think
you think they're going to win. You're right. Let's clarify. He doesn't want Tampa Bay to win. He thinks Tampa Bay will win.
Yeah, I do.
I want and think the Cowboys are going to win.
And what do you think about Jerry Jones coming out and saying if the Cowboys lose, McCarthy's job is not in jeopardy? That's a lie.
That's actually a very good question. But I think it's a lie because at the beginning of the season, Jerry Jones made the comment that he says he wants the Cowboys to be viable this year. Viable meaning make it past the first round. They had a bad first round exit last year when they hosted San Francisco and they managed the clock very, very poorly at the end of the game.
Yeah.
They don't want that happening again. This is a game that they can win. Jerry Jones wants the Cowboys to win. If the Cowboys don't win, I think Mike McCarthy's job is going to be up in jeopardy.
I think he gets fired before they even get back on the plane to go back home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What do they do? Tell him to get like a big Uber XXXXL?
Yes. No, he don't even have to take his stuff. He can get the smallest Uber possible. Could have just been him and the clothes he has on. So
yeah.
They'll say, hey, we'll drop your stuff at the airport when you get back.
Yeah. So I think as far as the overview for all these games, I mean, we can pretty much, for most of the games, we can pretty much tell, who's going to win as far as the favorite, but it's the Dallas Tampa Bay game and then the Chargers and the Jaguars game. Those 2 games can be interesting. I'm sorry, the Giants and the Vikings.
Yeah, those are all the games those are the tightest spreads on them.
Yeah,
so it's weird. You have 3 spread. 2 of them are double digits. The other one's like 8.5 right now.
Right.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to 10. And you got 3 games where they're like, we hope these games are close to do. And I don't see something happening in the other games like to keep them close, except for the Ravens defense maybe.
Right.
But I think the other 2 games are done. So this will be interesting.
Yep.
I'll definitely be tuned in Monday night.
I will. I'll be tuned into all these games. So one of them is about to start in about 40 minutes here. So
yeah.
But I am going to be watching the Bama basketball game, and then I'll turn over to the other game maybe on my phone. But
yeah. LSU kind of a dangerous squad for Alabama. One of those you don't want to overlook. I'm surprised the spread is as big as it is with 14.
What is the spread? I think we're about
14 and a half. Yeah.
14 and a half, yeah.
So I wouldn't take that in football or basketball, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think Alabama comes away with the win here. I think the squad is focused. And they're not doing stuff like they did in past years, dropping games to like terrible teams.
Right. So. Right. And I think our defense and our rebounding was even better this year than it did the previous year. So
100% agree. 100%.
And what do you think about the Kentucky-Tennessee?
I can't, but like Kentucky they show. So first off, let's take a step back. Right. Kentucky has still recruited at a high level. They have talent. The fact that they're not putting it together maybe goes towards coaching or maybe the right mid. I don't know, but they have talent. Right. The other thing, Tennessee survives on its defense, and it's kind of like when Virginia went back to back, going out in the first round and then winning the whole thing. The thing about defensive battles is, man, if the other team makes just a couple more shots, that's what's really going to get you. And then I think it was just a convergence. I didn't watch the game this morning, so obviously a lot of it's just kind of the box scores. But I think that's kind of what you get sometimes in those kind of games. You have a talented team, you have a low-scoring game. Kentucky was down with like 8-0 early on. Yeah. And all of a sudden it was 8-8. So it's like you got to put teams away, and I think just Tennessee scored to struggle against them. Alabama did too, though, for time. So
yeah. It was a low scoring game when they played Alabama for a while there, but then Alabama put away in the second half, especially with the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game. Alabama just started stroking the ball really pretty well. So it was interesting to see that. It's a good win for Kentucky, bad loss for Tennessee. I think obviously Tennessee's going to slide down the rankings a little bit. Yeah. But I think Tennessee will bounce back. They just had a bad game.
It's funny where you're like a loss to Kentucky is now a bad loss because they're lost so many games. Because usually you said a loss to Kentucky, no matter what, it's like still a good loss.
Yeah.
But we finally reached the point where like beating Kentucky is not a good win and losing is a terrible loss. So.
Right. Yeah.
All righty, sir. Well, it's about to be a good sports weekend, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Starting
in 8 minutes. Only thing that's missing is college football.
Yeah, I know. It's over. Hell of an ending to the season, huh?
No. I thought Alabama-Clemson was the saddest championship game I watched.
Right. This was horrible. The lowest rated college football championship game since the BCS and playoff era. So
yeah.
I mean, it was horrible.
We only finished it because we had people over.
Right, exactly. I kind of had a feeling everybody else wanted to watch something different, but nobody could really just figure it out. But we just kept the game on and just watched the punishment continue.
Yes. Just so everybody knows, the end of our game ended up being we were listening to a couple describe how they met and what their vacation plans are. That's how we ended the game.
Yep.
And that's all we need to say about it. That was just sad. So. Well, Rod, all right, let's see how these playoff picks, hopefully our NFL playoff picks do better than our college football bowl picks did. And we'll discuss that during our podcast. So you need to tune in our podcast, but thank you everybody subscribing to our YouTube channel. And as always, 3, 2, 1, takes home.
Outro music / fart sounds.
Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.